Hello, my sweet little noodles. My name is Brittany and welcome back to my channel. And today I'll be talking about my recent trip back home to California and a new young adult horror book.
It's Brittany, bitch.
So I wanted to do a much better job of vlogging this vacation because I am typically incredibly bad at doing so, but I did not succeed. I did, however, get many good clips, but I just never know how to include them. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm actually going to talk about the book that I read, but I'm also going to talk about my trip and kind of tell you how my days went. And I do have clips I'm going to put over this video so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, even though a lot of them are pretty brief. At least you kind of get more the picture. But I did not get everything. There was definitely days where I was just very present. I didn't get that. I forgot to film that dinner, whatever it is. I'm a big foodie, so I usually try to take pictures or videos of my food, but again, I'm not always good at that. If you're wondering what the young adult horror book is, it's In Nightfall by Suzanne Young, and this book literally just caught me off guard. I was at the library just searching for a couple of books for the trip, and this one caught my eye. I literally turned around and I saw it on an end cap, and that was it. I was just sold by this cover, and don't tell me you haven't been sold by a cover in the past.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god, stop fucking lying.
It's happened to all of us. I literally just picked this up because the cover looked this fucking good. This is my new favorite cover of maybe the fucking year. And on the back it is blurb that this breathes life into the vampire genre. So I knew it was about vampires and it's a young adult horror novel. That's all I need to fucking know. So I'll go into this a little bit later because I did end up finishing this book, but I'm gonna go into my trip really quick. So we left on a Wednesday, got on the plane, and I did end up picking up Nightfall and started it that day. And then when we landed in Charlotte, we ended up going to Jamba Juice, which I have not had in years, and I was very excited to go to Jamba Juice. I got my favorite, which is the white gummy, which used to be only their secret menu, but now it is a menu item that you can order anytime, anywhere. And we also ended up going to Auntie Anne's, which is that lovely pretzel place. I just never really ended up going, but I really liked their pretzels, so that was what we basically had for dinner. And we got on the plane, we went to California, and then we got there, we ended up going to In-N-Out right as we got off the plane. Again, I have not had In-N-Out for many a time, and the last time I ended up having it was I think last year or the year before that we went to Arizona, but it just was not as good because I was so stressed out from that trip where you're there for one night. So actually getting to enjoy it for a second after getting off a plane was fantastic. I got a double animal style fries and a Neapolitan shake, and it just fucking slapped. So we got out late on Wednesday, so the next morning on Thursday, I basically spent the whole day at my dad's house and just hung out with my family, but I was actually staying with my mom for this entire trip, and I got some videos of her apartment because I think a lot of people do not understand how many plants she can fit into such a small space. But the woman is obsessed with plants, and she even admitted to me the minute I left 3 years ago, she's just kind of been on a plant rampage, and she's been trying to fill her loneliness of missing me with plants. And seeing as how she has over 100 plants, I absolutely believe that. My mom has a very boho hippie vibe, and I think her apartment shows that as well, but I really like the way that she's done it. I like all her plants, and she somehow takes care of them and they don't die. It's pretty miraculous. And she also has this really cute new cat named Coco. Her original name was Coco Bella, and then I made fun of my mom for it and changed her name to Coconut because she's such a crazy cat, and I call her Coconutty. That's Coconutty. I just love her. She's the cutest damn thing. She kind of warmed up to me on day 5, but she slept with us pretty much every night, even though she's kind of skittish. She was originally feral, and she's barely even a year old, so she really hasn't had a whole lot of time with humans, but she's very lovey and she's not aggressive at all. She's just very skittish around people. And anyway, so that evening too, I met with a friend who brought up her baby. It was just kind of a good family night. We ended up just eating tri-tip and hanging out with the family, inviting over a bunch of family members that we possibly could fit into one evening, and that's what happened. Again, for everybody's privacy and my own enjoyment, I did not get any good videos of that, but just so you know. And then on that Friday, my brother and my dad had to go pick up their car, which is a very long story, but we ended up going to Dutch Bros in the morning because we do not have a Dutch Bros here in Raleigh, and I really miss Dutch Bros. It's one of those really fun, easy coffee places I've just always enjoyed, so we definitely went and got a Dutch Bros, and I got a small, extra sweet half-calf annihilator, which is one of my favorites. And then we went to go pick up their car, and this was an endeavor I did not realize was going to take all day. It literally took from 8 to 5 p.m., and it was a lot. So my brother and my dad back in 2020 basically took a class on how to build this 25th anniversary Cobra, and then they actually bought the car, and they've been building it the past 3 years, and it's basically almost finished. So they built the whole thing, it's pretty much ready to go, but they had to go to a specific guy to do the body to make sure that the body fits, and eventually they're gonna paint it and make sure everything looks correct. But they basically had to do a body fitting, and now my brother and my dad are trying to get the car to work because something is wrong with it and they don't know what it is. Which, I mean, I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous, but they literally cannot figure out something is wrong with the car because they literally built it from scratch and it just is not running. But they have to have it ready by like mid-October because the guy is going to pick up the car again so he can actually like finish the body work. And then the car is basically going to be freaking done. So finally, after like 3 years, this giant endeavor for them is going to be done. And I just like hung out with them because there wasn't really a whole lot of time for me to hang out with them like on the trip. Like I had so many other things planned with people that I was like, let me just spend this time with my dad and my full biological brother, which you probably would not know by looking at him. He's very tall, red hair, very skinny. We're kind of like polar opposites, but you can definitely see the similarities whenever we're like in person, like with the similar teeth, similar eye color, similar expressions. But other than that, like we look like aliens. And we also went to sushi that day. We went to sushi for lunch. We went to Mikuni's, which is a very popular Sacramento area sushi place. It's very pricey, which is why it was always kind of like a special treat. But my favorite thing from there is the tuna sliders #2. And I did, of course, get those. And then that evening, I went out to dinner with one of my old best friends who I haven't seen in years. And we went out to dinner and then we ended up going to Barnes & Noble and another place. And I ended up buying 2 books, which I have not bought books in forever. And one of those books I will talk about next month in October because she really wants me to read it. And I think I'm just gonna make it a reading vlog. And so we ended up talking for a couple hours and then we went to Pinkberry, which is one of my favorite frozen yogurt places that, again, we do not have here in Raleigh. So it was definitely a treat. And the Pinkberry was probably the highlight of my day just because it was so freaking good. And every time I've tried to have Pinkberry, not back in California, like it just hasn't been like a good experience or like it wasn't very fresh or something. So having like the good, fresh, unadulterated Pinkberry was just the treat at the end of my day. And I don't think I said before, but the real reason I actually went back to California to visit my family is because of a family wedding. So on Saturday, that's when we went to the family wedding in the evening. But in the beginning of the day, I went with my mom to go to the farmers markets and stuff that we used to do. We went to the farmers markets, got a fresh coconut, did some shopping for her, and then we ended up going to Edare's, which is one of my other favorite restaurants in the Sacramento area. Edare's is like a small European bakery, and I don't know why I said small. It's like they have so many options. Their food is really good. My favorite thing actually from there is their soups. Like they usually have a daily soup, and like I have never had such good soup from a restaurant in my life. And their pastries are obviously incredible. One of my other favorite things is their fruit tarts and their Napoleons, but honestly, I've never had a bad thing from them. It's one of the places I just highly recommend if you ever visit Sacramento, just go. It's off of like Howe Avenue, and it's incredible. And it was always like a staple. Like my mom and I usually went out to the farmers markets. We usually end up going to Edare's and splitting something. We ended up splitting like a meatloaf sandwich, and it was so good. And in the evening, we went to the wedding, which was up in Somerset, and it was definitely a little bit cooler up there, and it was really cute. It was really sweet to see my family getting married. I know that they were very happy to see us there. We were the people who traveled the longest to see them, so I felt pretty good about that. I did travel all the way across the country to see you, so I hope you do feel very special, and I love you very much. They probably don't watch my videos, but whatever. And then on to Sunday, we ended up having brunch with the whole family, and it was just like nice to see everybody because it's kind of like the last time I was going to see everybody kind of in one place before I had to go back on the plane. And so we had a really nice brunch at a place called Sienna. They actually moved locations. Sienna used to be in El Dorado Hills, and it still is. It just like moved across the freeway. So if you're ever in El Dorado Hills, California, please go to Sienna. It's just a really good restaurant. It is actually the restaurant where Tyler and I decided to move to New Mexico like 3 years ago. It was like the restaurant. It was the moment. I'll never forget that we were just sitting there and decided that we were going to end up moving from California. So this restaurant definitely has some sentimentality for me. Even though they're at a totally new location, their breakfast was really good, by the way, so would recommend. And then for lunch, we were also in El Dorado Hills at Sky Sushi, and I ended up having like the spiciest sushi I've ever had in my life there. We were meeting a friend there, and I've always gotten irresistible with the creamy ponzu, but I don't know if they have just made the creamy ponzu like extra spicy or something, but it was the hottest sushi I've literally ever eaten. And I actually ate it. Like I forced myself to eat it, and then we had to order mochi because I literally don't know how I was gonna like leave and get in the car and like go home. Like I was like, how am I gonna be able to like breathe? Because it was so fucking spicy. I feel like I was on hot ones. Like I felt a little high. I don't remember where I was, and it was an experience. It was always like a little spicy, but it was never like to that level. So I just don't know if they changed their recipe or what. But I really enjoy Sky Sushi. But after that, I don't really know if I would go back for a hot minute. It's okay, I don't live there, so whatever. And then that evening, I went out with some other family for dinner at one of my other favorite restaurants called Mandaris. And Mandaris is like a really small sports bar and grill, and they have this amazing like steak risotto where it's like beef tenderloin cooked the way you like with any type of risotto that they offer. And it's just amazing. And I got my steak risotto rare honey with that creamy Parmesan risotto, and it was a very good highlight dinner of this trip. And then on Monday, we ended up going to Apple Hill with my mom and my other 2 brothers. So I have 4 brothers. It's a very long story, but these 2 brothers I went to Apple Hill with are actually biologically related to me in some way. And we went to Apple Hill, which is basically this hill up in Northern California that has a whole bunch of like apple orchards and wineries, and it's just kind of like a good fall activity that everybody does when you live in the Sacramento area. It's like a thing. And you eat apple donuts, caramel apples, caramel marshmallows, which are my personal favorite, which I got like 3 of, and I did not eat all 3 by myself. Okay, I did share them, but I at least had 1 caramel marshmallow for myself. They have really good apple pies, Dutch apple pies, any kind of like berry pie. Like it's just like a really good harvest place to get really good like harvest fruits and vegetables. And there's always a lot of like cool stuff up at some of the apple orchards. Like High Hill always has like artists and vendors. There was like a gem guy who was there. It just kind of depends on where you want to go, but there's so many different attractions on quote unquote Apple Hill that you really could just get lost on that hill all day. But I definitely recommend going during the week because the weekends are absolutely batshit crazy and so busy because everybody likes to go up there for their fall activity. And this time we ended up going to this place above High Hill. I don't know what it was called. It was the first time I've ever been there, but they had this little nature trail with flowers. So we took a bunch of really cute pictures up there and it was just really fun to go walk on it. And it's actually pretty long if you want to continue along the trail, but like towards the beginning of the trail is just a bunch of flowers. You guys can take pictures and all that cute stuff. It's a really good family location. If you're from the Sacramento area and you've never been up there, I highly recommend it. And this was my last night in California, so I ended up doing a lot of packing, and then we went to Jack's Urban Eats for dinner, which is another place I really could not pass up on this trip. And I'm getting the steak salad and their urban fries, which have like chili oil and blue cheese, and it's just so good. There's a lot of really good food in the Sacramento area. It's like the one thing I really miss from home is like the food. There's just so many amazing restaurants and things that I just cannot find anywhere else that you just kind of grow accustomed to when you live there for like 25 years. And then the next morning, bright and early on Tuesday morning, we ended up flying back home, and for breakfast we had some Peet's coffee, which actually ended up turning my stomach a little bit, even though I actually used to work at Peet's. I don't know if it was just because I was nervous or something from the flights. I don't know. Peet's coffee was actually really good, even though we waited fucking like 40 minutes for it in the fucking airport. But I drank half of it and then I immediately did not feel good. So I don't know what happened there, but that was pretty much the end of our trip. And we got back home and now I'm giving you this lovely summation. So I do apologize. I wish I was a lot better at like making actual reading vlogs and like talking to you guys on vacations, but I'm just traditionally not good at that. And also I don't really have the space. Like I'm always like with somebody else on vacation. I'm always like sharing a room with people. It's not really a good opportunity to go and like talk to you guys about like what's going on or explain things. Cause it's also like I'm not like friends with vloggers or my family are vloggers. Like they just kind of don't get it. So I kind of have to fill you guys in later, but that's what I was doing for the past week. And I ended up finishing In Nightfall, actually last night. So I just finished this book, and this is a young adult horror novel about vampires where you know it's about vampires, but you don't really know like how it's supposed to like come into fruition, because this author is really good at delaying the inevitable to the point where it actually got a little bit frustrating in the middle, where I was like, okay, I understand there's supposed to be vampires, but like how does this fit in? Like how are they doing this? Like how is this town existing? Our main character is Theo, and her brother Marco are basically being relinquished to Nightfall, Oregon, where their grandmother lives. They are stuck there for the summer, so now they're basically being forced to go vacation with their grandmother in this tiny little town of Oregon. But something is very amiss, and we don't really know what's wrong with the town, but something is very off. It kind of gave like Twilight vibes in the very beginning, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of like a dreary little town, but it's a cute little small town feel, and we don't know what's really going on, but her Nona acts kind of weird, makes weird little like stick figure things and puts them in their clothes, and they always tell them to like not go out after dark, not to trust the locals, not to trust strangers, but they never actually fully explain like what the hell is going on, even though everybody in this small town seems to be on the same secret. And since I read the blurb on the back, I already knew that it has something to do with vampires, which I knew was pretty cool of an idea, but like it really wasn't revealed until like pretty much the very last 100 pages of kind of how stuff started fitting together. And I do like how it fit together, but I feel like it took a little bit too long to get there. But then again, this author is really good at that kind of stuff. Like she did that before in her other book that I read called Girls with Sharp Sticks, which I read for like a young adult dystopian reading vlog. She did the same thing where she almost like delayed it for so long I almost lost interest just because like nothing was being explained, and I like a little bit more explanation a little bit earlier. But she's also very good at coming up with these really cool reveals and explaining how stuff fits together so well that you're like, how did I not see that? So I think overall I'm probably gonna give this like a 4. I'm not really like set on how I'm gonna rate it yet. It's probably a 3 or a 4. I really enjoyed this. It was a really fun, fast read, especially for like traveling. This is a nice, pretty light book, and also like the cover just sold me. Like this is just like looks like something you want to read. This was probably the perfect like October read for people if you don't like to be too scared, but it's definitely like a little bit young adult because we have teenagers going on here. We have some like young love, but we also have some really weird, gory instances that are very unexplained. Like she sees like a dead boy at the beach, she calls into the police, she goes back over and it's just the guy's watch and not his arm, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. Her brother's acting strange. It's a whole thing. Like, I don't want to ruin any of this for you. I feel like this is just a really fun book and I would highly recommend. This was kind of the perfect thing I was looking for right now. I wanted something dark and fun and campy, but also like actually kind of gritty and scary, and this just delivered. I also liked how so many of the women in this were badass. Like every single like badass character was a woman, and Nona is one of them. Nona is a vampire slaying bitch, and I just love her. So anyway, if there's anything you got from this vlog, it's to pick this book up. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to me babble about my trip. If you have any suggestions for vlogging on trips with family, please let me know, because I feel like that's one of those things I have a really hard time with, and I would like to improve that in the future, because I do like doing things more in the moment instead of after. But I kind of wanted to make a reading vlog so I could at least use the clips that I take, because I always end up taking lots of videos and clips and they just sit in my phone for years and I can't really use them for anything because it'd be kind of weird and unexplained. So anyway, please let me know how to do that, and it was lovely talking to you guys today. I will see you again very soon in another reading vlog.